Okay, so welcome to Manifestation Stories. Eileen Hitomi Lane. Tell
Thank
me
you,
a story.
David. Thank you, David. Well, this is back when I grew up in LA. My ex-husband decided to move to Idaho, so we went there with my son, and this was back in 2005, and we ended up getting divorced, and I moved back to LA because that's where my family, my support is. And while I was in back in LA for a couple of years, my best friend introduced me to Reiki, and I have never received Reiki, so I had no idea. And so I went in there with just open mind, no expectations. And I received my first Reiki session. And after that, I'm going, okay, it was beautiful, but I really wasn't sure what to expect from it. But the very next day when I woke up, my IBS came back, which I haven't had for 10 years. My depression, I had postpartum depression that came back, and I was just this emotional wreck.
So you went the other direction. You were supposed to heal.
Well, I found out that it's what's called a healing crisis. I had no idea. And I thought, what did she do to me? I said, is this what Reiki is like? So I thought, I'm never going to ever receive Reiki again.
If this is what Reiki is like,
But
why are people
I
going
found
to
out
it?
that sometimes it's a type of purging,
Okay.
it's a purging. So, but I didn't know at that time. And it probably lasted almost a month. And after I contacted my girlfriend, I said, "Oh my God, I've been feeling awful since I received Reiki. And what do I do?" And she goes, "Oh, go back and, contact, Laurencia. She's the Reiki master." And I said, "Okay." So I emailed her and she says, "Eileen, you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. Just meditate, you'll be fine." That was her answer. I said, "Okay." So I did. I don't know what to meditate for, maybe like, releases pain. But the next morning I woke up and I received this knowingness, like it says, you need to go back to Idaho. And I'm going, when I divorced my husband, left Idaho, I had no intention of ever going back because I didn't really develop a sense of community there. But the message I heard was go back to Idaho. And as soon as I said okay, all my symptoms went away just like that. And I thought, okay, so I'm supposed to go back to Idaho.
Wow.
So I said, all right, well, there's certain things that I need because I'm a planner, an organizer. I just bought this townhouse in Glendale, California. I've only been there for 6 months. I said I need to sell this, unfortunately, but I want to get what I paid for. Also, I need a job because I did occupational therapy back then. I said I need a job in an outpatient pediatric clinic in Boise. And I need family support, because in LA, my parents were there. They would pick up my son from school. I mean, I had friends that would pick up my son. I had that support of the community and my family. So I said, those are the three things I really need going back into Idaho because I had nothing there except for my ex-husband. And so I made this little vision board, and in 5 days, I got a job. I got an offer on the house before, actually, the day it went on the market. I got an offer on the house for what I paid for. A couple of days later, I got a job offer in an outpatient pediatric clinic in Boise. I said, I don't know when I can make it back. I have to sell my house, and it was guaranteed. I said, okay. And I didn't even go through an interview. It was through my friend who happened to be working at that clinic. And then on the third day, my ex-sister-in-law, who was working in LA, she calls me and she says, I decided I'm going to retire from McDonnell Douglas out in Long Beach. I'm going to sell my house and I think I'm going to move to Idaho with you so I can help you with my son, Kieran. And I thought, oh my God, there's my support. So
Wow.
um, I also put on the calendar that I want to wait until my son Kieran finished school. And so I thought mid-June would be a good time to go back to Idaho. Um, and so when everything was falling into place, I went to Idaho to buy a house for ourselves, myself. And I found a house and I was waiting for my realtor to pick me up to sign the paper to make it official. And while I was waiting, my realtor in LA calls me and he says, Eileen, I'm so sorry, but your appraisal was about $24,000 below your asking price. And I'm going, oh my gosh, I started crying. I'm going, that's all I wanted was, to sell it and get what I paid for. And so I was so upset. And I said, oh my gosh, it's going to fall through and I'm about to buy this house. I don't know what to do. And just then my phone rings and it's my girlfriend Angela in LA who I was helping out. And that's another story with Angela too. But she calls me out of the blue and says, a guide, and it's not her guide, but she goes, a guide shows up and tells me, call Eileen and ask her about her house. And that was it. So she goes, what's going on? So I told her what happened and what's been going on. And he says you'll get what you asked for. So she goes, I don't want you to leave me in LA, but I know it's what you need to do. So just go ahead and sign the papers, buy the house in Idaho because you will get what you paid for your house in Glendale. And I said, but you don't understand. The appraisal came out $24,000 short. And she goes, no, I guarantee it. He guarantees it. And I said, okay. So I signed the papers, bought the house. The next day, my realtor calls me and says that the buyers, they're going to pay cash to $24,000. They didn't even
You're going to make up the
question it or
difference.
try to negotiate. So I got what I asked for.
It's great.
Um, and then I was only off by 1 week with when I moved to Idaho, just off by a week. And then my sister-in-law Tanya came to Idaho a month after we did.
Yeah.
So that was basically how everything just kind of lined up. And then I worked at that job for a couple of years and it led me to a better, job. But yeah, that was my story of just big manifestation.
That's quite a stack.
Yes. So I was supposed to go back to Idaho.
Uh-huh.
It
Yeah.
wasn't in my plans, but it was for the highest good. But when I went back to Idaho, I was really welcomed back. So I all of a sudden I started building a community in Idaho, and it ended up being probably the best thing I ever did. And so I still go back there. I have such wonderful friends and community. So it has become my second home is Idaho.
That is wonderful. That's quite a story. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Because, you ask for a big manifestation. And in
Yeah.
your case, it was not, it was a manifestation, but it was also a guidance,
It was guidance. Yeah.
right? You were
It
guided
wasn't.
there, and then everything was taken care of for you.
It was.
But that
It
was a
was.
co-creative process because you said, oh, okay, I'll do it, but these are the things that I need. And
Yes.
all of that was lined
It's
up.
like, okay. It's like it's not what I wanted,
Hmm.
but if I'm gonna go back there, here's the stipulations.
Yeah. And it turned out really well for you in the
But
rest of
yeah,
your life.
and we talk about really trust,
Hmm.
having to really trust and even things that, I can't see far enough. It's like, why do I have to go back for? But the thing is, the realization was that I didn't want to be the reason why my son wouldn't be close to his dad in growing up. So, and that
Hmm.
was the big reason that I had to
Hmm.
go back. And so when I went back, my son would spend a week with me and a week with his dad and
Mm.
back and forth. So he was able to spend more time with him.
Yeah.
So I think that was the biggest reason,
Yeah.
really, why I had
That
to go
you were
back to
guided
Idaho.
back there. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's other things that was introduced to me in Idaho as well too. I mean, after I got fired from that first lady, which I'm really glad, she served the purpose of me being able to go back to Idaho by offering me that job. It led me to a new clinic who absolutely became the boss was my next job I went to was absolutely wonderful. And the woman who owned the clinic was a therapist as well, and she's the one that introduced me to craniosacral therapy.
Mm,
And before that, I never knew what cranial was. So, because of her, and now I'm back in Sedona, that's what I do is cranial.
really
It's just kind of one thing led to the other. So even getting fired was, no, it was a good thing.
was a blessing for sure.
It was a blessing. So yeah,
Yeah.
it was very much a domino effect.